Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Bad Lit Friends, the writing podcast that still barely knows what it's doing. I am your host, Megan Thompson Mann, and this is my co host.
Hi, I'm Kirk Rafferty.
And this week, Kirk wrote the script, so I'm hoping that he's going to guide this discussion. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. Yeah.
Oh, I really? Okay.
W- Uh, mm,
Yeah, I
and
guess
and
I'll
and
try.
yeah, and why don't you tell us, since you're going to be my shepherd, what we're talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about writing tools this time around. I thought this would be an interesting topic of discussion, and not just focus on actual writing platforms, but some of the tools and a little bit of the ecosystem and a little bit of this won't surprise anybody, but some kind of a couple tools of shame that I'm going to call out too.
Boo hiss.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Good. I was like a good boo and a good hiss.
That was a good boo and a good hiss.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
So, how's your writing going?
Writing is going very well. I am editing, which is the sweet spot where I love to be. So my manuscript, as I mentioned last week, it has come to an end. Now I'm editing, and my daughter Rylan, friend of the show, former producer of the show,
Yay,
had
Rylan.
some.
Not yay former, yay Rylan for
Yes,
taking
exactly,
us on in
exactly.
the first place
Yes,
when we really
boo
needed help.
hiss former. Yeah. So she actually read it. She liked it a lot, or she told me that anyway, but I believe her. She actually, one of the reasons I love her reading my stuff is because she doesn't hold back on her criticism.
Mhm.
And it's funny, the way she does it too, it's really funny. She'll say like, "Oh, this was fantastic," and then and I'm like, "Oh, great," and I'm just waiting for it, and then she'll say, you maybe what about this a little thing, right? And then eventually it's just an avalanche of like, here's why this entire chapter did not work. So I just have to give her a little space to do it. But she's given me some fantastic feedback, and I have some really good ideas now. She had some good ideas that I am going to steal and incorporate them into this book so that it can be like just an amazing book.
That's so
I'm
exciting.
super excited about this book.
That's so cool.
Yeah, how's your writing going?
I have had today, since today I had
Yeah.
off, I had an absolute fucking banger of a writing day, of a 3-day weekend. So, touch wood, I might be able to replicate this again. But I wrote 1,700 words today,
Nice.
which for me is like a lot.
Yeah.
And then I only have one chapter left now. That's it. I might finish it this weekend, which is
Hooray!
shocking, that
Mhm.
it's finally coming to an end, but
Yeah.
then, the end is only the beginning as I go into editing. I'm gonna take a week or 2 off, I think, and just query. I book 1 because that's drifted, and so
Good.
but yeah, feeling pretty good, pretty psyched, kind of sad in a way to be finishing the book,
Mhm, mhm.
but onward and upward, right? Making it a lot better, and I have so many ideas for editing now. I've completely changed the ending within the past couple of weeks. That's great.
Good.
I talked my coworker through the chapter I just finished today, and also what I planned for the last one, and she kept going, "Ooh, ooh." So I think that's great. I might have a winner. I have no idea. Anyway, let's talk some writing tools.
Alright.
So, I you've started it off with the biggest,
Yeah, yeah.
possibly the baddest.
So let's talk about, so writing platforms, alright? And so, of course, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is Microsoft Word. We've all used it, or at least most of us have.
Boo hiss.
Boo hiss, but you know what? Everybody, like, just has to have some level of competence with Microsoft Word if you're writing long form fiction, because this is what just about anybody in the industry is going to expect from you. Agents, editors, publishers, whatever. You're going to have to turn in a docx format. And I can hear now that, there are people saying, "Oh, well, I can use OpenOffice or Apple's Pages."
Word perfect if you're really old.
Wow, Word Star if you're really old.
goodness.
George R. R. Martin
Sir.
still uses
No
WordStar.
way.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
The
I feel
problem with
very
those is I
young.
think they are really not compatible. So, and the problem with using something like, OpenOffice is that, yeah, it's probably about 99% compatible, and as long as you're just doing basic formatting, basic manuscript formatting, you're probably fine, but Microsoft Word, like that's kind of the baseline that we all have to use, and so I'll talk a little bit about the pros. So it's universally recognized, everybody on the freaking planet uses it, right? And again, if you're working with anybody in the publishing industry, they are going to at some point want a .docx file
Mhm.
format from you, or if you're submitting to contests or things like that. Word does everything, right? So it's got just a zillion different little functions, and they're all buried somewhere, and you have to find them if you want to. And but it's also got a legacy behind it. It has been around for years and years and years, and because of that, there's a lot of kludgy crap going on in it. So, like, if you have ever tried to position an image in Word,
Sorry.
yeah, it's
Hi, that was me
nigh
on Thursday.
impossible. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy, and the reason is because, there's a lot of legacy that it has to carry, and I know that when Microsoft switched from .doc to .docx, one of their things was, "Look, there's a lot of stuff we're not bringing forward," right? But .docx is older now, and so it's also got its baggage. I would say probably one of the biggest cons, though, is that Microsoft is now pushing their O365 subscription,
Oh,
right?
God, yeah.
So, no longer can we buy a copy of Word and not have to buy another copy of Word for another 4, 5, 6 years, right?
Yeah, I bought one. I bought a whatever the most recent Office was. I bought a standalone version. I used a Groupon,
Yeah.
because I was like, "I am what do you why am I paying $10 a month for this is bullshit." So
Mhm.
I went to Groupon, and I think I paid, I don't know, 18 bucks for a lifetime. Like, it's mine. Will it eventually become outdated? Yeah, absolutely. Is it gonna be okay for my needs for the next 5 years? Probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
But
really
no.
resent it. I really resent, like, the fact, and here we are drifting into capitalism, boo, but
Mhm.
I hate the subscription model for everything these days.
This is
I
going to be a
absolutely detest
theme
it. Mhm.
on today's show,
Yep.
by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And it sucks.
Mhm.
So, especially if you wanna do anything in Microsoft's ecosystem like collaboration, right? Guess
Mhm.
what? You are stuck, with
Yeah,
O365,
and I
using
have to say
SharePoint,
that as a lawyer, their redlining capacities are fantastic. As an editing tool for professional writing, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful.
mhm, mhm,
Although everybody hates
mhm.
section breaks with the heat of 1,000 suns. I have to use them frequently
Oh
and I
my
hate
god,
them, but
yes,
I also need them.
yes.
And it
Uh-huh,
when
uh-huh.
when I export my manuscript, and we're gonna talk about the software that I'm currently using a little later, but when I export it into docx, it puts sections in automatically, which is great because it does it by chapter, but I also have not
Mhm.
only chapter numbers, I have chapter titles. So this is complicated
Yeah.
for exporting it from Word into EPUB, I found, for reading on a Kindle because it doesn't know how to rank the yeah, so
Oh, sure. 'Cause you know
yeah,
what?
it
EPUB is
sucks.
just
It really
HTML.
sucks,
Yeah.
and I'm Shane
Mhm.
hasn't read my book because I'm continuing to have problems with the EPUB. Anne also has not been able to read my book because of my
No.
continuing issues with EPUB. So I am here today as your supplicant. If you can help me in
So
this episode, find a good way to get an EPUB. The floor is yours.
boy, well, I do have a couple suggestions for you, and my overall
Okay.
pick
We'll
on
get there.
on that software, but, we'll see. I have a note on here about Microsoft Word. I wrote that it has enough features to design a nuclear submarine, but just go ahead and try to move chapter 12
Yeah.
above chapter 11. right? It's so fragile. Everything you try to do, like, the more complex your document
It
gets, the more
loves
fragile it gets, it seems to me, and so
it loves phantom font changes as well. You're like,
yeah. Yeah.
"Where the fuck did this
Mhm.
courier come
Mhm.
from?"
Funny story, I when I was querying my first book, I got I got a request for my manuscript from this agent, and that was fantastic, and then I got a request for the first, like, 3 to 5 chapters, that's what the request was, and then he came back to me and said, "I'd like to read the entire manuscript. Can you not put it in courier font this time, though?"
Shit.
And I opened up my manuscript, same manuscript I sent to him, and I'm like, "But this is Times New Roman," and sure enough, about halfway through, or a third of the way through or something, it had switched to Courier. I have no idea why, and he thought so my this was a historical novel, and he thought that I was just switching to be kinda cute, like, it because it looks
Oh,
historical, right?
Jesus.
I was like, "No, this was." Yeah, so, anyway.
Fuck you,
uh
Bill Gates.
Seriously, seriously. Alright, so let's move on to the next big one, Google Docs. You and I use Google Docs to collaborate on this show with,
Yes, we do.
and so it has got some of the problems that Microsoft Word has, but because it doesn't have, well, there's two things going on. The Google controls the entire back end of what's happening, right? And it's also there's less moving parts inside of Google Docs. So you don't have formatting down to the nth degree like you can do
Mhm.
with Word, right? You've got you've got just the basic. Used to be, man, when Google Docs first came out, it really was just the basics. And they've added some more features now, but it's still for pretty feature lean.
Yeah.
And it does what it needs to do. And if you're writing long form fiction, you've got everything you need
Yeah.
in Google Docs. So why isn't everybody using Google Docs?
Well, a lot of people have objections to Google
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
begin with. There has been a lot of discussion, which I have seen both debunked and bunked, let's say, that Google is training its LLMs on the contents of
Yeah.
Google Docs, Sheets, all of the various tools. I'm not sure how much I believe it because Google has come out and said, like, straight up, we aren't doing that. We're not looking at any of these things to train our LLMs. Now, take it with a grain of salt.
Well, and it's like I said last week, I tend to believe them within
I
a
do too.
very narrow field of vision on that, because if they were training on your emails, they're either training on a lot of crappy emails out there, or they're training on emails that have been generated by LLMs. They're just
Mhm.
feeding LLM shit back into their own LLMs.
This is an interesting topic. Like, are
Oh,
LLMs
we could do a whole
trained on
yeah, they
dick pill emails?
yeah.
I mean, it would explain a lot of stuff, but,
So think about how many documents are out there that are just nothing but AI slop. If you're Google, you don't wanna be training on that stuff, and there's no easy way to figure out, "Oh, this is, it's some pristine stuff, but this is junk," and
and and
right?
that's why, what happened in the Anthropic case, shows how insidious it can be when they do it right.
That's
Right
right.
is in
That's right.
serious scare quotes because they
Mhm,
they knew
mhm,
what they were doing, they knew where to go.
mhm.
Personally, for me, for Google Docs, cons are that occasionally I have to do extra steps to make it do what I want it to do, but that's because I've got a Microsoft Word trained brain. The more I work inside of Google Docs, and I do that more when I'm in editing, the quicker it comes to me. And when I'm collaborating with betas and alpha readers, I find it's fantastic. You just send a link. You
Yep,
can
yep.
control the level of access that the person has.
Mhm.
And I think I've mentioned a long time ago on here that I set up a Discord for my last one for people to read. I put the chapters up, and you could click through a Google Drive link and access it and leave comments.
I
It was
listed
great,
as one of the pros in
very
in
seamless.
my, notes here that, collaboration is peak level in Google Docs. Like, it's
Hmm.
hard to beat
Yeah,
Google's collaboration.
and the
The
version
version history,
history
yeah,
thing as
is
well.
yeah. absolutely.
I think a lot of people have been very sensitive recently to the concept of versions and feeling like they have to show their work so they can disclaim accusations
Mhm.
of AI. Personally, I put it on the record before. I think that's all bullshit. I don't think
I
you have to
agree,
prove
I
anything to
agree.
anyone. If you know that you're doing the right thing, I don't care, but for other people, it's important, and it's very easy to show what you've done, and I also love it because I
Mhm.
fuck up and I delete shit, and then I can go back and find it. So, I love it, but I also do think that it can be, as you put down here, slow and unpleasant at times.
And larger docs, tend to slow down, and actually Word has that problem too, so anytime you have a larger doc, it's gonna slow things down as well. I think one of the biggest concerns is all of your stuff is up in the cloud, right? You don't I mean, unless you're exporting it, and then you're exporting it into
Yeah.
probably docx or something. But,
Yep,
you know,
that's me.
really, like, I have a Google Docs account. I've actually got several Google Docs accounts, and I've got hundreds of documents in those accounts.
I'm always shocked when I search for
And I
things,
and
like,
I
in
never
my
find
main
anything. Yeah.
one, and, like, and I see things and I'm like, "Good God, that's from when
Mhm.
I was still living in the
Mhm.
UK." Like, it's that long
Yeah.
ago. Like, I've been using Google Docs
So,
for
I
20
mean, it's
years.
convenient, right?
It's
You
kinda
can
shocking.
you can log in,
Yeah,
10,000 miles away from home. You can log into your Google Docs account, and there it all is. It's also, that there's a
yeah.
downside to it, and if anybody ever got into your Google Docs account, they could run roughshod. They could delete everything. So, yeah. And I guess, it's kind of the same issues that Microsoft Word has. Formatting is often sometimes, hold your breath as do Command V, and you might have to do a lot of cleanup. Okay, let's
Yep.
go on to it's not the 800-pound gorilla, but it's certainly like, I don't know, the
It's about
500, yeah,
550.
pounds, and that is Scrivener. And Scrivener
Mm.
is, man, it is one of those things you love or hate or have never used. There's no in between.
I'm in the last category.
Okay. So Scrivener is purpose built for long form fiction writing. It had people like us in mind when they developed it. So it's got things like a built-in corkboard. It's got some outlining capabilities. It's got tags. There's a whole process where you can compile a manuscript. And let me tell you, compiling manuscripts is a whole. We could do a whole episode on compiling manuscripts. It is both a
That says everything I need to know about Scrivener,
yeah, yeah.
because I can tell you when we talk about my tool that I use, it's not an issue I ever think about at all.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things that Scrivener gets dinged on is that, people feel like just to use Scrivener at a basic level, they have to watch 2 hours of tutorial videos, and they're still, "How do I do this?" They gotta, do internet searches and everything just to figure out how to do kind of some basic things. I think that's a little exaggerated. When I got Scrivener, yes, it was a learning curve, and yes, I was
Uh,
fumbling around for a while, but I was able to accomplish about 90% of what I needed to do, within the first couple days of using it. Now, I am also a nerd, and I love digging into the guts of things, so that might say something about me. If you are a writer who just wants to put words on a page and get those words out in a specific format,
uh.
that may be a little different experience for you. But, as far as pros go, there are so many tools available to a writer to help you not only write your manuscript, but to kinda develop it and kind of flesh out your world. So there's a corkboard in it, and you can
What is
drag
it? What
scenes
is
around.
what is a cork board? Can you
So if you can imagine like a physical corkboard, right, on your wall, and you've got index cards, and those index cards represent scenes in your novel, right? And so you've written down all these index cards, and now you're putting them up on your. You can't see me, but I'm waving my arms like I'm pinning stuff up.
he's right, he is. It's a
You're pinning these scenes up, right? And then you get this idea, oh, but I need something between this scene and this scene, and so I'm gonna add another one here, and oh, this one should really go over here, and it's kind of a murder board for writers. right? And so what this does is it kind of helps you visualize your story in just a different way. Rather than looking at just chapters and scenes in kind of a linear list, you're able to kind of, play with it, move it around a bit. So a lot of writers like that. Some writers like me have tried to use a corkboard and it does nothing for
Ditto.
me. But there are also other tools. So you can do split screen, which is really cool. So you can have basically two editors in one. So you can be editing one scene on your left pane and another scene on
Hmm.
your right pane. And maybe, and you can kind of see how those are interacting. I think you can also do it horizontally divided. I can't remember. You can do snapshots. You can track metadata. I mentioned before you can tag things. So there's all kinds of these cool little tools that you can use. And, some writers love little tools. If you're one of those people that like, what's the little tabs, the little that you can buy from like 3M, the little tabs that you can like
Oh,
put in
yeah,
books
yeah,
and
yeah, like,
notebooks and things
the
like that.
flags and the Post-its and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, if you're somebody that likes to do that, you're gonna love
That is not me,
Scrivener.
so
But like I say, the cons are the significant learning curve. The interface is a little dated. Scrivener's been out for a while, and the last real significant like visual upgrade was maybe 3, 4 years ago. Like it's been a while, and so it
mm,
looks a little dated. Most writers are not getting this is kind of like Microsoft Word too, is that most writers are only going to use a very small subset of what Scrivener has to offer. And so, you're buying this very powerful writing platform and you're only using part of it. Having said that, Scrivener's also really cheap. I think it's
Jesus.
$59, $60, something like that. And that is not a subscription. That is
Mhm.
you own it. You own that version. So the Scrivener's on version 3 right now. If you buy it for $59, you get that version, and you don't have to subscribe or anything. So there's a lot of value to it, I think. The other thing I've run into this too. So if you use Dropbox, I use Dropbox a lot.
Yeah, me too.
If you use Dropbox to store your stuff in, you have to be very careful because when Scrivener opens your project file, when it's got it open, it's sort of got its tendrils into that file. And if you are sitting on a laptop 10,000 miles away and you open that file that you left open at home, you're going to have
Mm.
problems. So if you do that, it's best that you make a copy or something and then have to sync up. So it's a real thing. Now, that you can probably say that about a lot of software, but Scrivener especially so. I've had Scrivener projects completely destroyed because I thought, "Oh, what's the harm? I'm just gonna, do this." But it was open on my desktop at home.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
it's it's
I
got
guess
too
that's
many bells and whistles for me, and I think I got super scared by hearing about what a steep
yeah.
learning curve was when I was just like, "I just wanna write. I don't I don't need a lot of extra stuff."
Mhm,
I thought about it, and I was like, "It's hard enough to write. Like, I don't need to learn something else. I just wanna have something like Google Docs, but with, like, a little bit more.
mhm.
Just like
Yeah,
a dash more of organization with a writer in
which
mind,
brings us to
which
Dabble,
brings us to Dabble. So
which you
which
use.
I
So
use, yeah.
so tell us about Dabble.
So, I've been using Dabble probably I wanna say, about 5 years now, and I was looking for writing software and got scared by Scrivener. And
Mhm,
looked up, like, Googled, like, alternatives to Scrivener and came up with Dabble. Now, Dabble is a kinda stripped down, but not too stripped down version of Scrivener. It has a lot of the same stuff. It has you can keep multiple manuscripts at the same time, so you can be working on multiple books. I have many full books and not complete books in
mhm.
there, and I also work in there for my writing group, and I can group things by notes. I can group things by chapters. I can group things by sections,
Mhm.
manuscripts, the works. One of the things I really love about it is how it operates in the
Sure.
cloud.
So it's like Google Docs in that respect.
It is like Google Docs in that respect.
Mhm.
So I can work on it pretty much on any device I have a browser on. And I have worked on books on browsers on everything from phones to like my Kindle to, obviously my computer at work,
Mhm.
my computer at home. I love it. And it also has some kind of inbuilt bells and whistles that I don't use that are interesting. You can upload cover art, for example. So I can add an image into the text, just stick it in. So they have a partnership. I think it's with Pixabay. If it's not, then I will update it in the show notes. But you can connect to rights free, non AI
Mhm,
images in order to put them in
mhm.
your book, either as a cover image or an as an insert in a chapter. You can export to Google Docs. You can link your Google Docs right up to it. I have mine hooked up. I feel fairly safe doing that. I You can export to Word, you can export to a text file, you can export to the web, so that you can collaborate with other people in the sense that they can't actually like type into it, but they can look at your
Sure.
what you've written. There's also collaboration tools that are inbuilt into it that allow you to track who the different collaborators are
Oh,
within a
nice.
particular chapter. They notated it. They have inbuilt timers. They have inbuilt grammar and spelling checks. They have a narration tool, and it's run by writers for writers. And I love it. I will also say it is not cheap. We're talking about subscriptions. This is the worst part of Dabble for me, and the reason why I keep thinking like I should walk away from it because I am grandfathered in for a sort of medium level subscription for at a ridiculously low rate. Otherwise, I would leave. But right now, I think it's like the cheapest is $10 a month, and there are I could be wrong, but there might be yearly subscriptions. I hate the subscription model. I do appreciate that they are constantly updating it. In fact, when I opened the tool just now, it's telling me to install the new update, and this probably happens
Mhm,
every
mhm.
couple of weeks or so. So they are always working on the tool, and they have online forums that you can take part in as well. They're very collaborative, they're very open and easy to contact as people. But I hate having to pay a subscription. Also, for people who want more than what I've just talked about, it's not going to be enough. You can organize things by chapters. You can, as I said, do notes. You can do character sketches. They've added some stuff. It's not a Scrivener. If you're looking for all of that stuff, it does have a corkboard function that I don't use because that's not how my brain
Mhm,
works. But for some people, it's not going to be
mhm.
enough. And it can also hurt. Like, but these are my words. Why do I have to pay money to access my words? So up to you. Again, if you want to try it out for at a cheaper cost, I have a coupon code. Shoot me a line on Blue Sky. I am a little bit of
Yeah.
an evangelist for it, but also I am very aware of its limitations. Let's do the one on your shit list here.
This was a weird one. It was the one that actually made me think, "Oh, we should do writing tools." I came across this and I was like, "No way. This can't be a thing." Because I have used Readsy for years and had no idea that they had
Yeah, I
Readsy
just came across
Studio.
it too. Looking for an EPUB.
Okay, so I don't wanna shit on it too bad. It's free. There is a subscription model to it, but, what you get for free is not awful. My problem with let's just start with basic writing, okay? It looks to me like, and because 'cause I've played around with it just a little bit, but it looks to me like if you just wanna sit down and get words on the screen and crank out a book, and you have no expectations that you're gonna do, any of the things Scrivener or probably even Dabble does, that you're not gonna do, like a character codex or shuffle things around, no corkboard, then this actually could be for
Mm,
you. I think here is my biggest problem with it is it's super basic in the writing department, but it you can also generate EPUBs with it. You can generate PDFs with it. Readsy wants to be where you're going to go from beginning to end of the life cycle of a book. So they want you to write, they want you to, engage with the people that you would hire to do book work for you. And then they want you to, ultimately generate the EPUB or the PDF or whatever, and I feel like it is all stretched out. It does a bunch of those things, but it doesn't do anything well. And I don't even know what the life cycle has been on this. I don't know how long Reedsy Studio has existed. I don't know what their future plans are for it. If they did actually put some, real effort into it and, but maybe there is a place for a kind of an end all be all, like all the way from writing my first word to getting that book in your lap. Maybe there is a want for that or a need for that. Right now, I think they're not failing exactly. It's just everything about it screams
Mm.
mediocrity to me. It's not there yet. And so I would say, I don't know, if something like that interests you, maybe give it a try because it is free. There is a subscription model as well, but it's, free to just try it out and play with it and see what you think. And maybe there are people out there that it works
I
for.
came across it when I was looking for an EPUB solution. And to be fair, I did not give it a lot of time, but it did not make what I was trying to do particularly easy.
Right.
For what I use, and I will actually call it out because generally it is kind of great. I don't know if you've ever used Calibre, also known as Calibre,
Yes, I have.
but was really
That should
great
have
when you
made
were
the list,
stripping.
actually. I don't know why I didn't think of it.
Calibre really great for stripping DRM.
Is it? Is it?
I wouldn't. I hear.
I hadn't heard of that, yeah.
I hear now that Kindle books you can't do that anymore. They don't make it easy, but I have heard that one could still do this with Google
Mm,
Books. I digress. I was having problems with the EPUBs that I was creating in Calibre. Calibre is also a free
mhm.
tool. It's also extremely clunky and clearly put together by enthusiasts,
Yes,
which I
yes.
love. I love this for them. They also frequently update their software. It is not look, it's a writing tool on the back end, and we're about to get into this
Mhm.
topic of making a book look like a book. It can do it. It can this is where it can happen. If you're interested in a free tool, we'll put a link in the show notes. Calibre
Yeah.
is great. It did not fit the particular need that I had. This is not me shitting on it because I think it's fantastic and I think the people that run it are wonderful. It just couldn't fit my particular need because I'm like, it requires, like, some knowledge of HTML and look, I'm old, but I'm not that
Yeah.
devoted, and could I have Shane help me maybe figure this out? Possibly. Am I that patient? Abso-fucking-lutely
Mhm.
not. So, the search continues, but as we talk about making the book look like a book, you have put down some really interesting products here that I have actually explored before, and I'm, like, excited to talk about them. You put down Vellum first, which is one that I can't use because I am not in the
Mhm.
universe. Look, I hate America and the world, so I am in a Windows environment. Apple's not that much better, to
To
be
be
fair,
fair, yeah.
but, Vellum looks so
Yeah, and
cool.
so let's talk about Vellum. So we're now segging into kind of post-production here. The book is written, now you need to get it in people's hands. So Vellum is a book formatting app. And what it does is it takes your manuscript and it generates an EPUB. It does this in a very narrow way, and so the trade off is Vellum is extremely easy to use, but you're also limited in your options. So I
Mm,
have mentioned on previous shows that I had taught myself InDesign, and we will talk about InDesign here too. But spoiler alert, InDesign is the Microsoft Word of the design world. Okay. Vellum is kind of the dabble of the world. And so you get a lot of choices, but you don't like, I found that, I keep finding myself wishing, "Oh, I wish it just had, like, one more little option. I would really like to do this."
mm,
And it just doesn't have that option. The upshot is the EPUBs that it generates look professional, they look great, they are like, they're ready to go, they're ready to be sent to Ingram Spark or KDP or wherever you're getting your books printed, and they're gonna give you a very nice looking book. So, the downside, you've already mentioned it, it's Mac only. So, if you're on a PC, you don't get to use Vellum, unfortunately. Now, if you have a nice friend like me, we could even Zoom up one time
We
and,
could.
we could actually format your book through Vellum and do it that way if you really want. But yeah, and,
That's only for co-hosts. That this is
that's
not f
that's right.
not
Yeah, this is not a general
sorry. Sorry, Gen Pop.
offer, sorry. However, I'll just throw this out there. If you do have a little extra money to spend, MacBook Neos are actually pretty cheap.
It's true.
So if you wanted a
Shane has one.
dedicated Vellum computer, you have more money than I do. The other downside to it is it is on the higher price side. So if you just want to format ebooks, it's around $200.
Ugh.
And if you want to do ebooks and print books, it's 250. So now
Oof.
it's not a subscription, and this is a one-time buy, which is pretty cool. And Vellum are also constantly updating the
Okay, so
software.
you get updates as part of that.
You you get a lot of updates, yeah, and I would say that, okay, if you're going to do one book, if you have one book in you and that's it, you're nuts for buying Vellum. But the more books that you write, the more Vellum kinda pays for itself because it is that one-time cost. It is, it's kind of template driven, so they give you a choice of a bunch of different templates that your book comes out to, and so after a while, like, I've found myself doing this. I'll look at a preview of a book, usually, like, almost always self-pub books. I can't think of a trad pub book that I've seen this in, but when I look at a self-pub book on Amazon, if I open the sample chapters, I'm like, "Yep, that was formatted in Vellum," which is not to say it looks bad, it just there is a Vellum
Yeah, I've
look
seen it on
sometimes.
Blue Sky, where
Yeah,
people are
yeah.
doing kind of snips, whip snips, and you can tell. I mean, I've learned. I couldn't automatically tell that this is vellum. It looks so pretty. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gorgeous, but it also gets samey. So
Yeah, there's gonna be like I said, there's gonna be things that you're gonna wanna do, and you just can't do it in Vellum because it is very template they really put guardrails on, and the reason they put those guardrails on is because book formatting is hard, and so they've taken all the really hard decisions and encapsulated them in this template. It really is the only way you can make book formatting easier, is by doing this, and so that's what they've done, and I think they've done a really
mm,
good job. Let's move on to Atticus. So Atticus is another book formatting piece of software. I actually bought it when it very first came out. I want to say it was maybe 4 years
mhm.
ago, 5 years ago, something like that. And they were running this deal and it was like a lifetime subscription it was a ridiculous price, like $49 or something. And so I bought it. And I wasn't even to the point where I was formatting a book, but I thought I'm going to be there someday and, this seems like it. So now it is a one-time $147
Ugh.
price. So it's gone considerably up. And I will say that so the pros, so you don't need a Mac. You can run it on Linux because it's web-based. So anything that has a web browser, you can run it on. It also does so it's one of those apps that can be run like an app, but it's still sort of like a browser type experience. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you ever run an app and it's like it feels like a web browser, so that's what it
Yeah,
is, yeah.
that's how Dabble is on a desktop. It's essentially just a web app.
Okay, yeah. So you can run it in your
Mhm.
browser as well. It does both print and ebook formatting, so, for that same price, so it's cheaper than Vellum. For that same price, it'll do both ebook and print. Atticus also kind of puts you into this templated system, and I haven't played with this myself, but from what I understand, you can actually customize, templates
Mhm.
as well. So it's a little bit more expandable, I think, but you probably need to be, a little more tech savvy than I am on book formatting
And
to be
that's
able
saying
to do that.
something, friends.
Um, so once again, it's easier than InDesign, which is the 800-pound gorilla of book design. And You can take one project. This is something that Vellum is a little weak at. You can take one project and you can adjust it easily for print and ebook. Whereas Vellum, typically my workflow with Vellum is I'll do an ebook version project and then I'll do the print version project. And actually my print versions are I've got one print size for paperback and another print size for hardcover. So, I've actually got 3 Vellum projects for the same book, and it kinda sucks sometimes because if I spot a typo, I've gotta go update 3 different projects, and from what I understand, Atticus is a little easier to deal with. The cons to it are that it's not near as refined as Vellum, and I ran into that. In my opinion, the output can look good, but I think that Vellum sort of goes a little bit beyond looking good. I think Vellum tends to look, like,
Mm.
really good, whereas with Atticus, it'll look good. It's gonna get your book out there, right? It does get a little weird when you've got, things that need cleanup in your manuscript, so sometimes it won't import your manuscript very nicely. Like, I've never had this problem with Vellum. Vellum always I import it as a Microsoft Word doc, and I have very little cleanup, whereas I noticed I had a lot more cleanup in Atticus. So you just have to once you've done it once, you're good, but there is that. And so I guess that in terms of like paying for book formatting, it's not a bad way to go if whether you have a Mac or you don't have a Mac. Vellum is going to be more expensive, Atticus less expensive. Vellum's I if I were to go like feature to feature head on, I think Vellum is edges Atticus out. But again, you may not need
Mhm.
everything that Vellum offers. So Atticus may be perfect for you. So moving on, I'm just gonna throw Kindle Create out there. I'm not gonna talk about it that much. Kindle Create, if you wanna stay within the Kindle ecosystem, Kindle Create might be the way to go for you. It very much funnels you into KDP. So if you're not looking at going out to like Ingram Spark or anything like that, give Kindle Create. The great thing about Kindle Create is it's free. The really big
Mm.
downside is, though, that is very Amazon-centric. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about Adobe InDesign. It is the 800-pound gorilla of design. I compared it to Microsoft Word earlier. I would say it's even worse. If you can imagine if Microsoft Word and Scrivener had a baby, you might get Adobe InDesign. It is obtuse. It is very difficult to do the most basic things. You have to find a tutorial just to get you started, and then it just gets worse from there. So, the upside is you can make some really beautiful things in InDesign. So I know we don't read magazines anymore, but, if you do happen to find a magazine laying around, chances are that magazine was designed in InDesign. I actually ran it, into a guy at a conference, this last conference I was at, and he was an editor. He spent his entire career as an editor, and his entire career he spent in InDesign, and so he did layouts for magazines and even newspapers. He was doing it in InDesign, and so InDesign will lay out your book. It will also lay out a magazine. It will do flyers. Anything print InDesign can do,
Yeah.
but it sure makes you work for it. So I tried to use InDesign to format my book, and it was just too much. It was too overwhelming, and I just decided that
It
there's other things I need to be spending all this time on, as a self-publisher.
it also ain't cheap. I'm looking at it right now through my own Adobe account, which my work pays for, thank God. And, this is with a 50% off discount for the first 3
Mhm,
months. It is 34.99 a month US dollars, and then, essentially 70 bucks a month app. That's a lot of
mhm,
money. A lot
mhm.
of money because you have to get the whole Creative
Yes.
Cloud Pro. You can't just get, like, InDesign, I guess, and that's
And that's how
crazy
Adobe's gone.
for
They're a complete subscription model now, so I don't even think that you can buy any of their products anymore. I think you have to subscribe to all of them.
no, no. I have an annual call with the lovely people at Adobe where we talk about, my firm's needs, and they're wonderful. I will tell you it is easy to say no to an Adobe person, and they will understand that when you mean no, you mean it. But at the same time, which I appreciate, no hard sells, but at the same time, this is way over and above, I think, most of what us need.
Yeah,
If we're not
yeah.
running our own publishing houses, our own small presses, we probably don't
Sure,
need all of
sure.
this stuff.
And especially as long form fiction writers, we're not doing a whole lot of design. Like what you're really doing in InDesign as a fiction writer is you're doing a lot of kerning, right? You're tackling widows and orphans, and already I
Ugh.
can see your eyes drooping. Yeah, that's what you're doing in InDesign. And so
Mm.
I've never been happier than to just hand it all over to Vellum. And let's jump into kind of I had to do this. I had to do this. This is our kind of wall of shame. So
Yeah.
there's two of these projects that seem like they're gaining more and more steam. And the first one is Novel Crafter. Now, Novel Crafter is I will tell you that I actually, when it first came out, I was very intrigued. And the reason I was intrigued is because I didn't understand how insidious AI was creeping into our lives. And I also didn't understand the extent to which Novel Crafter was relying on AI. And so theoretically, you can use Novel Crafter to write a novel without using any of its AI components at all. And from that perspective, it's got very strong story organization. So things are they're laid out by acts and chapters and scenes, and you can move them around, and you can summarize a chapter if you want, you can summarize a scene, you can do all kinds of cool little things. It's got a lot of structure to it. And for a writer like me, like I enjoy structure.
Mhm.
So it's browser based and you get this kind of palette, if you will, to write your novel. Now, again, you don't have to use AI, but you know what? It's so strongly encouraged. It is a core, I guess, element of Novel Crafter. If you're using Novel Crafter without AI, there's probably better tools out there to do it, like
Mhm.
Scrivener. And so Novel Crafter basically encourages you to use AI to write out scenes, and they couch it in the language that these AI projects always couch them in is, "Oh, you can use it for ideas. You don't have to use it to write your story." But you know what? You can use it to
Yeah.
write your story. And so
Ain't gonna tell.
right, yeah, yeah. And, Novel Crafter actually has a YouTube channel, and if you watch their YouTube videos, they show you exactly how to use Novel Crafter and AI to write
Boo
your story.
hiss.
And it's not boo hiss, and it's not just, using it to write summaries or anything like that. No, they're writing prose with this thing. So AI is not only deeply embedded into it, it's deeply embedded into how the workflow works. And so what I feel like it does, and Novel Crafter, I think, aims heavily in their advertising towards new writers. And it makes it, I hate this word, I'm going to use it,
Mm.
frictionless for a new writer to just get words on a page. It's not their words, it's AI words, but they got words on a page, and I can see where that's gonna kinda, feel good, right?
Mhm.
The other big problem with it is that there's a there's a service called OpenRouter, and with OpenRouter is connected to many, 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 many different LLMs. And so what you do is you send money to OpenRouter. Let's say I put in $20 to OpenRouter, and now I can just query all these different LLMs, and I'm charged by the
Mhm.
token that I spend on any of these LLMs. So Novel Crafter will hook up to OpenRouter, may hook up to other consolidators as well, but it hooks up to OpenRouter. And you're not just subscribing to Novel Crafter now, you're also subscribing to OpenRouter. and you're spending more and more money and, and I can see people probably just like, "Oh, I'm in the middle of this story and I just ran out of my $20, so I'm gonna refill Open Router. I'm gonna
Mhm.
put $20 more in to get this done." Pretty soon, like, you're spending a lot of money for
Yep.
words that aren't even your own.
Yeah, I came across a very similar product recently, called Freya, like the Norse goddess, which
Okay.
sounds like it very similar. AI forward, just like we can put your novel in. Put it in. We'll help guide you. And
Mhm,
look,
mhm.
we can create, images for you for your book. It's so easy, and if you are somebody who is AI resistant, which I suspect that a lot of people listening to this podcast are, this probably is not the area that you want to be dipping your toes into. One of the
Yeah.
things I really
Yeah.
respect about Dabble and about Scrivener is that there's no AI at all. It's you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all you, boo. Yeah, and it rises and falls upon you. So
Mhm.
it's uncomfortable. And you've got another one down here, pseudo right as well, which I am
Yeah,
familiar
and
with
I
too.
don't know if it's pronounced pseudo-right or pseudo-right. I always say pseudo-right because, I come from a Unix and Linux background, and there's a utility in Unix and Linux called sudo, sudo, and,
Ah.
so in my mind, it's pseudo-right. I don't know if it's pseudo-right or pseudo-right, but, yeah, that's the other one. It is very similar in nature to Novel Crafter. It does the same, it hooks to Open Router. I would say that Sue Wright probably encourages you even harder to incorporate AI into your writing process. One of the things that they put out there is that, look, if you're struggling to get ideas on a page, man, we're going to put those ideas right out on the page for you. And I don't know. I mean, conceivably, you could say, take an idea given to you from an LLM and develop that into a whole story. I suspect that if you are taking your original idea, you're probably not going to stop there. You're probably going to keep using
Yeah.
AI to continue to develop that idea. It does this. It's the same thing. It just encourages really lazy behavior, and by using these products, you don't learn how to write because it's doing it all for you. And so I don't know. It's one of the features I kind of laughed at is the describe and expand feature. And so what you can do is give it a sentence, and it will take that sentence and expand it into 4 paragraphs. You just tell it how big, how long, right? Isn't that crazy? So I wrote in my notes that you can take one deliberate garbage sentence into 4 paragraphs of garbage. Uh,
Look, if you've got it in you,
I eh, like, that just screams of, "I need to increase my word count."
that's never my problem, by the way. I can do crazy all by myself. Thank you. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and listen, I wanna point out that I mentioned these
Mhm.
2. I hesitated, I kind of debated about mentioning them because it sort of is free advertising, right? I mean, there probably is somebody listening to the show that is gonna go to their website, check it out, see what all the noise is. I would say, please don't, or at least be there just to inform yourself about bad things. But in the end, I just decided that, we do need to know about these tools. We need to get the word out that
People people might be curious. Look, if you're curious, I'm not gonna tell you, like, no. What I'm gonna tell you is that if you take one of these products and you do lean into the AI aspects of it, you're not gonna have that kind of high like I got this afternoon where it just fucking clicked. And the next thing I knew, I'd written 1,700 words. They just all came out, and most of them make sense, but that's okay. That's what editing is for. But it felt so wonderful just to be in a flow state, and everything that was coming out of me was me. That all of the stuff that was on
yeah.
the screen was me. So,
Mhm, mhm. This is why we write, not because we want to fill screens with words, but because we wanna fill it with the words that were inside us, and you're just not gonna get that with AI. And so that's really all I've got. I would just like to say to our listeners too, hey, reach out to us. Tell us what writing tools you can't live without, the other end of the spectrum that, man, you tried it, you hated it, give me all your Scrivener hate, man. I love Scrivener, so shower me with your
I
hate.
use only a quill and, the actual vellum, the
That's
real
right.
stuff. I am proud of the fact that I have not even opened a computer in the past 25 years. I did it once and I hated it. That's cool too. Good for you for listening to the podcast,
Yeah.
and not engaging with this internet stuff. Good, good. I'm very impressed. Yeah, horses for courses, right? It's whatever suits what your needs are, and you may have to try several things.
Yep, absolutely.
I hate the fact that I am dependent on a writing software that makes me pay them money every month when it's not that complicated of a tool.
Right.
But at the same time, I really like it and the
Yeah.
people are really nice.
Yeah, and
So,
I mean, and that's part of it, right, too, like, we find something that we just get that kinda clicks with us, and we love
yeah,
it warts and all.
yeah. Now, speaking of people who write with quills and vellum, let's do some hot goss. I mention that only because this week on, say it with me, Threads, I did see in the context of a greater discussion, which I will touch on in the moment, that if you are using spell check in your writing software, be it Microsoft Word or Scrivener, you are using assistive AI. True. But that means that you are using AI. Also true. If you do not welcome AI in your life, you're a
Mhm.
hypocrite to use spell check, and whatever happened to your rusty, trusty Merriam-Webster, you're a horrible person,
Yeah. Yeah.
and please leave the internet. Bye. So yeah, this week, heated rivalries, fanfic universe on Archive of Our Own was rocked by a scandal where a number of popular fic writers were exposed as having used Claude, the Claude LLM, in order to write sections of their fics, to write all of their fics, to use them to code skins for, like, HTML skins, unclear. There was a very long PDF, which I will not share. I understand it has been removed from the internet, but there are
Mm.
copies floating around somewhere. It's
Mhm.
25 pages long. It names names. Ew. Number 1, if you look, I don't use AI to draft my words. Like, the words, they're demented, and they're all mine. Thanks. I also use spell check because, while I was the 3rd grade New Haven Public Schools spelling bee champion, I also need spell check occasionally. But what happened was the inevitable. When names are named, people who have a purity stick that they want to beat on people's asses came for those people. And some of those people were hurt. Understandably, they were called, people who are destroying the environment, people who have no respect for their readers, people have no respect for themselves. And this is going on in tandem also in the heated rivalry fanfic sphere of other writers who were accused prior to this PDF incident of using AI to draft their fics. And, content warning here, those people, one of those people allegedly, unclear, may have taken their own life after bullying about this.
Awful.
One of those people, allegedly, also unclear, may have been in a coma after some action against themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's
Mhm.
even say that those are not true. The fact that those people felt so bullied that they had to pretend to disappear
Yeah.
in order to stop what was happening, the attacks that were happening, they were
Mhm.
being called out by name. This is terrible. This is writing by people who are doing it for free. They cannot legally make money, and yet they're being bullied. And you and I were talking before we started about this, that there's this air of, I saw Goody Proctor cavorting with the devil going on in this, and yet at the same time, the people who are making these
Right.
accusations about, like, you can't use spell
Exactly.
check are the people who 10 years ago would have said, "Why aren't you using spell check in your documents? All you need is look at the wavy red line." This is beyond scolding. This is running people out of their joy.
These
Sorry.
people know this, but the argument that they're putting forth is the same argument that AI apologists are using against writers like me who are very anti-AI for your writing. And so they'll say, "Oh, well, if you're anti-AI,
Mhm,
then you should turn off your spell checker and you should, turn off
mhm.
predictive text on your text messages and all that. Otherwise, you're a total hypocrite." So the AI bros, that's their argument. And so these so-called, anti-AI people who are, these bullies, let's call them, because that's what they are. They're falling into that
Yeah.
same trap. They are in the same camp as the AI bros. So
Mhm.
congratulations, you've just played yourself.
Look, I said, weeks ago, heated rivalry will heal the world by bringing together, apparently, the AI bros and the anti-AI bros.
I
But,
know.
whatever happened to just not reading or, like, privately telling people, like, "Hey, I think this might be AI, like, maybe I know that you're not interested in that, maybe you don't wanna read it." One of the very largest writers in this area of the heated rivalry fanfics, Opal Apparition, she had been drafting this book called Wolfbird, right? In AO3 for some time, our archive of our own AO3 for some time. And earlier in the year, she was getting bullied by readers who loved her work so much, but she wasn't producing it as fast as they wanted it. And she got so
Yeah.
wigged out that she drew back from it for a while, saying, I can't do this, guys. Now that she's back posting, people are saying, "Opal has been using AI, and here's all my proof." And now she's like, "You know what? I'm sorry, you're not gonna get the end of the fic." Now, the worst thing is that in this PDF, the fingers that are pointing towards Opal are not from Wolfbird, but from some other fic that she had up that had 2 instances of using, Claude that were kind of basically the way that it works, as far as I can tell, is if you draft something in Claude and then you, like, copy paste into the AO3 editor, it leaves behind kind of artifacts of Claude.
Mm, mm,
Um, it's unclear whether or not she and other people had been using Claude as a translating tool. From what I understand, Claude apparently is a quite good translating tool.
mhm.
Other people were saying, "Why couldn't you just use Google Translate?" Guess what? Guess what's also AI? Google Translate.
Yeah.
It's just
And you
older.
know what? And you know what? Google Translate is not that great.
That was the point that people were making, is
Yeah.
that Google Translate kind of sucks, and apparently Claude is better.
Mhm.
Now, in Heated Rivalry, one of the main characters is Russian, so I can understand why she might want to translate English phrases. I assume she writes her native tongue is English. Why she would want to use a good tool, right? Good
Mhm.
in scare quotes again. Other people may be using Claude and other LLMs to translate from other languages into English. We don't know. It's a spectrum. How comfortable do you feel? Is it as much of a sin? And I'm not really coming down and I wanna make this clear, I'm not coming down anywhere particularly on this point. But is it as much of a sin to use Claude or ChatGPT or whatever to translate a phrase as it is to write even, 3 paragraphs or 1 paragraph? Go for
Yeah.
it.
And you know how anti-AI I am. So, you know, I'm I'll give somebody a little more slack than I generally would if they're going to use that to translate. I will say, however, that and so we're doing fan fiction, right? So that's not going to pass on to an editor and to a publisher and things like that. So that I'm going to give you more slack on that. But for any writer that does use an LLM to do translations, man, you should still get that verified by a native
Mhm.
speaker because
100%.
yeah, you it still may not
And
be
you
right.
bring up an interesting point because there has been discussion about Opal's work, Wolfbird, and whether or not she was trying to, do a 50 Shades and create a reskin of her work.
Mm,
I think it was called Foxglove, and one of her betas or a person who is purporting to be one of her betas. This is apparently somebody who is known in the fiction, the fanfic sphere.
mhm,
So it's not like somebody just raising their hand randomly. Like this beta said, "Hey, I was given some what I believe to be early chapters of this reskinned fic that the author asked me to kind of zhuzh up." And at the time, kind of thought, "Hmm, this feels a little like AI, but who am I to say?" In the wake of the PDF incident, she came forward on Blue Sky and said, I think this is what this author was having me do. And that is for a commercial purpose. But at the same time, if those words that potentially were generated by an AI are being reworked by human hands, people may have different feelings about that. They may not feel that it's as much of a sin. There are absolutists and there are people who say, this is the wave of the future and
mhm.
just submit. And there are people everywhere along that spectrum. And I think if you're on this sort of spectrum, I'm not going to judge you. I'm also not going to judge you if you say it's completely unacceptable to me in every way, shape, and or form. At the same time, spell
Yeah,
check, guys.
yeah,
It's for real, and unless you're gonna say, like, "I'm turning off everything. I'm turning off my spell check. Turning off my grammar. I'm turning off everything. I'm giving up my phone. I'm gonna be talking to people through coconuts and string from now on." Like, it sucks, and I say this as somebody who does not want to be
right,
around a
right,
lot of
exactly.
AI. It's like, where do you fall on the hypocrisy scale? You're gonna fall somewhere, be real. And if you are willing to say, "I hate AI so much that I am going to bully someone
Yeah,
online," that is a
yeah.
choice. It is not a choice
I
I would make.
I think bullying is the worse sin than using AI. So,
Yep.
congratulations if you're bullying somebody for using AI, you've just become the thing that you were fighting.
I hope you enjoy all of your internet butt coins that you collected from people who say that you're completely right. We are humans on the other side of the screen, or most of us are. But have a thought for those people. You don't know what they're doing, who they are, what kind of state they're in. They could be having the best day of their life or the worst day of their life. Be kind to each other. AI sucks. So, with that, writing tools. Useful? Yeah. Perfect? No. That could be said about a lot of things.
Yeah, I hope we gave people there's a thousand tools out there, and we only have time to cover a very small sliver. But I hope we kind of planted some ideas in people's heads, and maybe have you think about something that you hadn't heard of before, hadn't considered, and now you're going to go back and hopefully you just find the tools that make your writing life
Yeah, and
easier,
let us know what you
because
use.
that's what it's really all about.
I'm very
Yes, please.
interested, and if you have any thoughts about ones that we didn't talk about, love to hear it. If you can come up with an alternative to Dabble for me that doesn't cost all of this money every year, I would love to hear it.
Mhm.
So next week, Kirk and I are look, I spent a lot of time on Threads this week simply because I don't engage with anybody on Threads because those bitches be crazy. And and when I'm on Blue Sky, I genuinely enjoy interacting with people on Blue Sky, and I was way too busy to be able to give the amount of time and attention I wanted to give. So I decided to lie down in the gutter. And the gutter is awful, but it is also full of lots of stinky gems, and, we decided to do an all hot goss episode again, but not warmed over. This will be piping hot goss, and, by the
Yeah.
time you hear it, it'll be 1 week old hot goss, but that's okay. It takes us a while to edit these episodes. I'm sure you will enjoy it anyway. And also go check out Archive of Our Own, and go have a browse around. If there's a book that you like, that you enjoyed, maybe not Harry Potter, as we discussed last week, but, um, Have a look around. Books that you may not even think would have fanfic written
Yeah.
about them
Yeah.
absolutely have fanfic written about them. And you can find us on Blue Sky. You can find us on Instagram, not on Twitter. Ew, boo, boo, boo. We're Badlit Friends everywhere. We have a website. Like, subscribe, tell your third grade teacher that you listen to a podcast that has lots of swearing in it, but is about writing. She might be interested. Who knows? She might also secretly have a potty mouth. But until next time, we will see you then.
Bye.